Chiefs Kingdom has started its own history class.
This is a legendary run by a legendary team. You got to enjoy every minute of it.
Let's find a way Tagovailoa's in trouble. Sacked. Pass is caught. Touchdown. Stone Cold gets the big sack.
The Chiefs dropped a tough one last week, but they still control their own destiny in the race for the top seed in the AFC. And that mission continues today as Kansas City takes aim at its 10th win of the season against the Carolina Panthers. We are 2 hours from kickoff. You've waited all week for this very moment. It's finally here. It is time for football in Chiefs Kingdom. Let's do this. My name is Matt McMullen, joined by voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holthus. This is Field Pass, presented by StorageMart. And Mitch, we are 9-0 this season when Field Pass is on the air. We had some technical issues last week and couldn't do our show in Buffalo. We were ready, just couldn't do it. Lost last week. Well, maybe it's a good omen for today that we're back, huh?
We are back and undefeated. That's the key NFL stat of the week, really. It was there for all of the national pundits. With Field Pass, 9-0. Without it, 0-1. Enough said.
I was thrown off last week with no pre- and post-game show. It was weird. Didn't know what to do with myself.
Biorhythms were off.
Well, it's also a great day to get back on track in the win column, hopefully. Won't be easy, though. I get that Carolina is 3-7 on the season. They've won 2 games in a row, though, and they're playing with some confidence right now.
First time they've won 2 games in a row in 2 years.
Wow.
First time they've won an overtime game since 2015. You're going 9 years, and yet this is a young team that's got some confidence. And so, yes, they're very dangerous. I hate to scoop my radio open, but I'm going to bring up the lumber folks that I visit with in Fayette, Missouri. Every piece of wood has got to be cut and cut to specification. And every game's got to be treated. This game's as big as last week's game, as big as week 1, as big as 2 weeks later. With a 17-game schedule and only 1 bye, this is gigantic.
And when the Panthers are playing well, they're going through Chuba Hubbard, right? What a season he's having. Yep. He's 4th in the NFL in rushing yards this year, behind only Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, and Josh Jacobs. He's averaging 3.6 yards per carry after first contact this year, and that's 3rd most in the NFL. He's also coming off his best game of the season. He rushed for 153 yards in Germany a couple weeks ago.
Well, he's emerging, and people in the Big 12 area know about him because he was the Canadian that almost won the Heisman with Oklahoma State. Powerful. You mentioned yards after contact. He's only one of 4 running backs as well to have 150 yards in a game and a touchdown. 2 of those 3 on that list with Derrick Henry, but then add Joe Mixon into that along with Saquon Barkley. That's pretty good company to keep. That's where you start with trying to defend the Carolina Panthers, because he can dictate terms, especially early in the game, Chuba Hubbard.
And having a player like that helps everyone on offense, especially a young quarterback and Bryce Young. And it's been kind of an up-and-down career for Young since being the 1st overall pick in the draft a couple years ago. Lost a starting job earlier this season, but now he's back, started the last 3 games for Carolina, and I do think he's looked better.
He's looked a lot better. They've kind of simplified things for him, and our coaches, they're giving him 1 read and a lot of rocket screens, tunnel screens, which we're good at defending. But I look for that to happen. Against the blitz is where the numbers, the first 2 games of the year, he was very poor. 46.8 QBR against the blitz. And the last 3, including the 1 more other than the 2-game winning streak, 101.8. It's glaring. It's first time he's won 2 straight games since the Iron Bowl, beating Auburn his last year at Alabama, and beat K-State in the Sugar Bowl. Those are the last 2 times that he won back-to-back games. Remember, he had the awesome year, won the Heisman, not so good the next year, still goes 1-1 in the draft. This is a big time for Bryce Young. People are kind of waiting to see what they have here. But Carolina's invested a lot in him, so today's a big day for Bryce.
He has some weapons on offense, too, notably wide receiver Xavier Legette, a guy that we liked a lot during the draft process. Great blend of size and speed, and he leads this team with 4 touchdown receptions this year. Also, Jalen Coker is a name to know. So he was an undrafted free agent out of Holy Cross, got cut out of training camp, but then made the team in late September, and really coming on lately. He actually is tied with Legette with 17 targets over the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, C.J. Hanson's college roommate at Holy Cross.
Holy Cross, football powerhouse.
I'm going to give you another one, David Moore, who is a big buddy with, he played at East Central Division II in Oklahoma, Ada, Oklahoma, but he's close with James Winchester, who said the guy's a baller. He trains with him in the offseason. So, yeah, there's some young guys, and they get Adam Thielen back. They've not had him for 7 weeks. Yeah, that Adam Thielen of Minnesota Viking fame, but he becomes a security blanket too. So Bryce Young has Chuba Hubbard, and then he's got a veteran wide receiver who's that crafty, stay on the field, avoid 3 and outs. Because these guys at 3 and outs, there's only 2 teams that have more, but Thielen helps that for the Panthers and Bryce Young.
All really begins with Hubbard, though, right? Like we've talked about. He's the engine that makes the whole offense go. The good news for the Chiefs is they continue to be very good against opposing running backs this year. So even though Buffalo scored 30 points last week, James Cook really didn't do a whole lot. He rushed for just 20 yards on 9 carries. And now for the season, the Chiefs are holding all running backs to just 3.1 yards per carry. Let's keep that going here today against Chuba. I
think, and this is much of a challenge as facing a Derrick Henry. This is kind of a young, he's got a lot of a young Kareem Hunt in him, where he's big. You mentioned his ability to bounce off tackles and yards after contact. He's got great balance, Matt, but yet he's powerful. So I'm a Chuba Hubbard fan. He's legit. These aren't fake yards.
Now, one area I hope the Chiefs can look better defensively today is on 3rd down, and specifically 3rd and medium, because that was really the difference in the game last week, I think. The Bills converted 6 times on 3rd and 6 or longer, and most of those led to points for Buffalo. You take just 1 or 2 out, I think the Chiefs maybe win that game last week. And I get Carolina doesn't have the firepower offensively that Buffalo does, but looking better on 3rd down defensively would be a welcome sign, I think.
Chiefs have dropped down to 21st in the league on 3rd down defense, 41% conversion rate against them. But if you're going to upset the Chiefs, I always try to look in my preparation, how could Carolina possibly win it? And you've touched on it already with Chuba Hubbard and those other safety valves, but it's also maintaining a semblance of a drive. Again, a 5 or 6 minute drive that leads to a touchdown early especially can be something that gives Carolina confidence to win the game. To get these guys off the field early for the Chiefs defense to me would be a priority, and that's winning on 3rd down.
Let's talk about this Carolina defense a little bit. And on the surface, they have struggled this season. It's the number 32 ranked scoring defense in the NFL, allowing over 30 points per game on average. It's also the league's worst 3rd down defense at 48%. They've been better over the last few weeks, though. They've held each of their last 2 opponents under 23 total points.
That's the key thing to look at. You and I look at a lot of stats all throughout the week, but this time of year especially, when you look at the year stats, you've got to look at the last 2 to 3 weeks, because that's what becomes telltale, I think, in looking at it in a balanced view, and that's precisely the case with Carolina. To say they're last in the league, and they are, with the points they've given up. In fact, the 1966 Colts and 1966 New York Giants and the 1981 Colts have given up more yards or points per game in the Super Bowl era than these guys. But it's primarily in those first 7 games, not the last 3. So these last 2 games that they've won, they've kept their opponents in the 20-ish, early or lower 20s. And so don't be tricked by thinking this is a lousy defense. It's not. And Josie Jewell leads the way. We know all about Josie Jewell. So does Pat. I think the only guy to intercept Pat twice in a single game. And the old Broncos running this defense, so there's some dudes there.
Well, J.C. Horn is a good player as well at corner. Son of Joe Horn, former Chief, makes me feel old. J.C. Horn's having a good year, though.
Makes me feel old.
He's allowed just 20 catches for 230 yards on 356 covered snaps.
Actually.
No, you're not. No, you're not. But J.C. Horn's a good player.
Very good. He'll play boundary corner. A lot of teams in the NFL will play right-left. But the Carolina Panthers do it where they'll play a guy field and boundary, meaning they like JC on the short side of the field. And so I don't think he'll match on anybody with the Chiefs, but you'll see him short side. What does that do? That allows him to be a blitzer. That allows him to make gambles on plays when there's kind of a lesser part of the field. J.C. Horn's a really, really good corner and very talented and got a lot of ball skills.
Now, defensively, one area they've really struggled is against the run. They're allowing 160 rushing yards per game. That's dead last in the NFL. We've seen the Chiefs kind of morph into this power running team. Could be another busy day for Kareem Hunt, huh?
I hope so. And I think all of them get involved today. You know, Isaiah Pacheco's not active today. He's still in that waiting window. But, yes, Kareem Hunt, and I think Samaje Perine, even Carson Steele get involved here. And even the creative ways the Chiefs can run the ball, whether it's McCole Hardman on a jet or some things that Andy Reid likes to do and think outside the box and running the game. But, yeah, you got to run the ball on these guys. Now, pass rushers, they got Jadeveon Clowney. We all know about him. DJ Wanham is underrated. We saw him last year with Minnesota. They spent some money on him here. It's up front where they've really been suspect, and you can gash them. So Stay patient, fans. Don't just chuck the ball down the field. There'll be some of that too, but run the ball on these guys.
I think that power running game could really work here today. And for more on what to expect from the Chiefs offense here in this one, I caught up with Charles Davis from CBS Sports earlier this week. All right, we're joined now by Charles Davis. He'll be on the call for today's game. And Charles, I want to ask you about this Chiefs offense. I think showed some good things at times against Buffalo last week. Obviously, though, some things to clean up. What are your expectations and what are you hoping to see out of the Chiefs offensively here today?
I'm hoping they've had a chance to take that deep breath and kind of get back to being who they want to be, which I feel like there's just a little bit of pressing going on right now. They know the potential. They know the number of guys who have made plays for them before. But every now and then things just feel a little bit off when you're watching them on tape or watching a TV game. You know, you're seeing some uncharacteristic stuff at times. You're seeing some unfortunate turnovers. You know, everybody's talking about how many interceptions Patrick Mahomes has thrown. Not all of them have been totally on him. And I'm not playing that game of, well, that shouldn't be the quarterbacks. It evens out over time because guys tend to make plays that maybe should have been interceptions. They take them away. So it just happens. But, you know, ball tips off of a hand, ball gets moved here. You get the idea. I think in the last few weeks with Hopkins now as part of the team, a lot of that is cleaned up for Patrick, you know. But, boy, if he and Xavier Worthy ever connect on a consistent basis on some of those plays, that changes a lot of what they do offensively. I think in this ball game, as we get going here in the not too distant future, I'm really eager to see how they come out of the gate because I think they really would love a fast, clean start that somehow culminates in some points for them because I know they've got to be sick of battling from behind.
Yeah, and there were so many times, you mentioned Xavier Worthy last week against Buffalo. They were so close to connecting on a big play. DeAndre Hopkins had one of those as well. Long second down, almost had a big play deep down the field. We'll see if they can connect on those in this game. What's kind of funny, though, Charles, is over the course of this season, the Chiefs have become this power running team, which is something I never thought I'd say about a Coach Reid or Patrick Mahomes-led team, but it's worked for them for the most part. And Carolina has struggled against the run this year, allowing like 160 rushing yards per game. What are you expecting out of Kareem Hunt here in this game?
I think it fits what he likes to do best, right? He's going to run between the tackles. You get fooled by his stature because he looks like the type of back you want to get to the perimeter because he doesn't look super large. But I think he does his best work inside the tackles. I think that's where he's most effective. He runs with power. He has leverage. He's low to the ground. He finds a way to burrow his way. And then once he gets through the mess, he can go out there and hot-foot it for more yardage. I think it's the type of game that Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, Joe Tooney have probably talked to Patrick, talked to the offensive coach, Matt Nagy, head coach Reid, and like, give us some of this today, please. Give us some of this. Let's get ourselves reestablished. Let's tamp some things down, all this outside stuff. And sometimes just firing off and hitting people can get a team back in sync. And they have the right guys in order to do that. So this will be fun to watch and see if anybody else emerges running the ball as well. You know, if anybody else becomes that power runner against this team, because Carolina's coming in with more confidence than they've had in a long, long time. 2 straight wins. In the NFL, you don't ever question who you beat, even though us on the outside will go, well, you know, it's not like the greatest competition. And Carolina's like, well, hold on a second. We weren't considered very good competition either. So we take the wins. And they're getting healthier. They're getting some people back to help them. DJ Wanham on defense is a big help. But I would test them very much so in the run game, as you noted stats.
You mentioned the offensive line. It reminded me of last year, ironically, the last time the Chiefs lost a game against the Raiders like 330 days ago. The offensive line the week after that against Cincinnati, they said, put it on us. We want to lead the way, and we'll see if they can do it here in this game. Last question for you, and you've kind of alluded to this already, but is there a matchup between the Chiefs offense and the Panthers defense here in this game, like an individual matchup that you'll be watching?
Yeah, because I want to see what happens now. Look, we all know Travis Kelce's a superstar. Only 2 catches last week, 8 yards. I think he'd like to get back into this thing. I think he'd like to get himself, reestablished, for lack of a better word. We know how great he is, but that was just unusual, right? We're used to at least 50 yards out of him and usually a whole lot more. I think he'd like to get established in this one and be fun to see what the matchup's going to be because, are you going to play safety on him? You're going to play linebacker? Is it Trevin Wallace, the rookie out of Kentucky, who's having a nice year for them? Can he match up with him on that one? Is it going to be a safety in the back that's going to match up on him? I would want to see in the middle of the field what Carolina has planned for him, because 2 catches, 8 yards is not going to stand for very long. And what a way to get your offense going again than to have your 2 superstars hook up like days of old. So that's the matchup I'm eager to see as this game unfolds.
Yeah, Travis Kelce doesn't turn in too many of those with 2 catches for 8 yards. I'm with you. I think he could have a big game here in this one. Charles, you're the best. Have a great call, and thanks so much for your time.
Always great to spend time with you, Stats. You take care of yourself.
All right, great stuff there from Charles Davis. Maybe the nicest guy on planet Earth. What do you think?
One of the smartest guys on planet Earth. I really like his stuff. He's one guy, of all the talking heads that we see, when he talks, I'll stop. Because usually something really wise and thought out is coming out of Charles Davis's head. So
always does his research too, which I appreciate. We just got the inactives for today's game.
Who's the biggest Charles Davis fan, you or your mom?
My mom is the biggest Charles Davis fan. My mom was at Tennessee when Charles Davis was an athlete there, and she was in the SID office, and she's his biggest fan. Anyway, hi, Mom. All right, so let's go over the inactives list. For the Chiefs, no big surprises here. We had everyone available who was on the active roster for this game. No injury designations coming in. A little bit of housekeeping, though. Isaiah Pacheco and Charles Omenihu are not going to play here today. You won't see them on the inactives list because they're still on IR. Like you said earlier, they're both making progress. Hopefully they're both back next week, but you're not going to see them on the inactives list, and they're not going to play here today. Looking at Carolina, they had like 30 guys listed as questionable. Almost all of them are going to play, and I'll run through them. So Adam Thielen, you mentioned him earlier, getting him back here today. Hasn't played since week 3, kind of adds a veteran presence to a very young receiver core. Jalen Coker is the one, though, that surprises me. We talked about Jalen earlier. We talked about him all week, really coming on for this team. He was a late add to the injury report on Friday with a quad injury. He's not going to play here today. So that's a big deal, not having Jalen Coker. Yeah, it's almost a trade-off, not having Coker's productivity, but then you get Thielen back and his veteran presence. So as I'm saying, with Thielen being able to move the chains is big for the Panthers and quarterback. I'm blanking out. Bryce Young, sure, yeah. Well, it looks like Jonathan Brooks is going to play. Make his NFL debut here in this game. Talented second-round pick out of Texas, a running back. He's going to play here in this one. We'll see how much he plays. Then defensively, Jadeveon Clowney was on the injury report with a knee injury. He's going to play. We all know what Jadeveon can do. We'll see if he's limited in any way, though. And then you mentioned DJ Wanham earlier. This is kind of interesting because he was questionable coming in with a quad injury. He missed all of the second part of last season and the first part of this season with a quad injury. I believe he had surgery, then popped up on the injury report this week. Late in the week with a quad injury. So he's going to play. We'll see how effective he is, though. Then also kicker Eddie Pinheiro, who's having a very nice season. He showed up midweek on the injury report with a knee injury. So almost all these guys are going to play, but these are big-time players for them. I'm curious how effective they'll be. Again, I think it's the Chiefs factor. You're playing the Chiefs. They want this would be huge for them to even kick them into the 2025 season with a new coach here in Canales. He wants something to bite into to kind of have this franchise and propel them forward in the NFC South, and that's what this day is for them. But, we'll monitor all these guys. Pinheiro, kicked for Matt Nagy in Chicago. Sure did. So there's a couple of Nags alums on this team. But this is a team where the Chiefs will have to play well. It's not, hey, this is a get-right game and all that. No, it's a get-it-right game. Meaning you're going to have to play with the same level of ability you have all year and against the Bills to try to beat these guys. Don't take them for granted. Just call Mike Tomlin and see how he's doing after that Thursday night loss in the snow to Cleveland. Well, that's the thing. These guys will be a challenge here today. I think if you look at the records, it's like, that should be an easy game. No, these guys are playing good football right now. They will be a challenge here today. The beautiful thing about the Chiefs, though,
and they had a bye week. Let's don't forget. They had a bye week. So, they've had 2 weeks to get ready for this game. But Coach Reid, Patrick Mahomes, this whole Chiefs organization, they're great at rolling with the punches, right? Yeah. When something bad happens, they find a way to get back on the horse the following week. Let's get back on track here today. I'm going to give you one stat. Yeah. Patrick Mahomes is the most successful quarterback after a loss in NFL history. What? He's 18-4. He has an 82% winning record after a loss. Best of any quarterback since 1966. I don't know about Bobby Lane or Sid Luckman, but since 1966, Patrick Mahomes is 18-4, the most successful quarterback after a loss at least in the Super Bowl era.
Let's make it 19-4 in front of a bunch of Chiefs fans that I can already see here in
And
Carolina.
Pat's never lost to an NFC South team. Let's keep that going, too.
Let's keep that going. For Mitch Holthus, I'm Matt McMullen. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Well, let's go get a victory.